Welcome back to Lost Legacies.
A Hidden City Book Company production.
I'm Matt,
I'm Sam.
I'm dead.
Yay!
and we're here for episode 201.
Wah, wah, wah. Do, do,
Wow.
do.
We were going to do some kind of celebration for 200, but then we're like, hey, that's a pretty suiting way to end Lost. And then we're going to do it for this episode, but schedules kept changing and everything, so, yeah, I think we're just going to do a normal episode. It's just going to be like this, just, so Sam, what's new?
Oh, nothing.
Yeah. I feel like it's been a while though since we've talked about
No.
like I don't know, news. What's going on in the movie industry right now? Anything I should be aware of?
Uh,
Last time we talked was the Oscars, I think.
oh, okay. Well, I don't think so.
Right? I haven't heard much.
Yeah, I haven't really heard of one. We may end up, we may be getting the ill-fated, Coyote versus Acme movie after all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Heard
Dad,
about that.
I don't know how caught up you are on the whole Warner Brothers debacle with the live action Coyote movie.
Um, no, you're speaking Greek to me.
Cool. So the Looney Tunes Coyote,
Okay, know him well.
they made a movie about the Looney Tunes Coyote who is suing the Acme Corporation for all of their defunct properties and items that he keeps using that are faulty that don't help him catch the Roadrunner.
All right.
They made a movie. It's he's animated, traditional 2D animated, but
Uh-huh.
with live action people, all this stuff, blah blah blah. A bunch of people worked on it, all this stuff. Warner Brothers, in their infinite wisdom, not only canned the movie, but rumor was that they went so far as to straight up delete the movie from their archive, from everything, from all these different places, uh, for tax purposes. They said that it was just going to be cheaper if we just nix the whole thing,
Wow.
throw the whole thing away.
Wow.
And
Destroy all evidence.
yeah, and everybody was upset. The people who made the movie were obviously upset. Fans were super upset, both fans of like Looney Tunes and just movies in general. Everybody was up in arms about it. Um, well, now that we have a new Looney Tunes movie, I think it's The Day the Earth Blew Up, starring one Daffy Duck and Porky Pig. It's the I believe this is, if this is true, this is the first theatrical Looney Tunes movie to premiere, in theaters, to premiere on stage.
Huh.
Or not on stage, but on big screens. And that seems to be doing well. It's not, it's not like a huge blockbuster, but it's doing well enough that now there are rumors and there are talks that we might actually end up getting the Coyote versus Acme movie. So kind of a huge deal for Looney Tunes
Hmm.
as a property, and all of that.
That's interesting
Wow.
because the whole purpose of doing it as a tax write-off is that you can do it if it like the public never sees it.
Yeah.
So if they release it now, they would have to pay that money back, right?
I maybe I have no idea. Apparently the rumor is that there's this other company called Ketchup Entertainment. They are trying to buy the rights to the Coyote versus Acme movie so that they
Sure.
can distribute it and they can release it.
Sure, but one, that means Warner Brothers didn't delete it. And
Oh
two,
yeah.
that means that they're going back on the deal You
Yeah.
know, like so I imagine they would have to pay that money back.
Yeah, I'm assuming so, but
So
I don't
that's
know. Yeah, I
wild.
don't know what the it's still very up in the air right now, you know.
Yeah.
So, time will tell. There will be further developments, I'm sure.
Now it
Yes.
depends like how much they actually got for the tax write-off and all that stuff because
Hmm.
you could just throw that into the buying cost for that other company. Be like, okay, add an extra 20 million or whatever because that's what we're gonna have to pay, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So,
Sounds like a scam to me.
Yeah.
well, that's what everyone was saying. There's all these like legal questions and stuff like how can you pay millions and millions of dollars to make a movie that never comes out?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's
Well,
weird.
and Warner Brothers seems to be the perpetrator of this because they've done it with this. They did
Yeah.
it with the Batgirl movie.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, I don't know if this was Warner Brothers, but there was another movie. I want to say, don't quote me on this, but I think it was kind of like a biopic about Bruno Mars. That was a
Mm.
musical that fully done, fully edited. All they needed to do was like start the marketing campaign and go at it. And whatever company was going to distribute it, they pretty much said, no, it's okay. And they just vaulted it.
Hmm.
It's like,
Hmm.
so I don't understand the reason for that. I think that was also for a tax write-off, but it's like, why is this the norm now? Why does this seem to be the norm for some of these studios to just sink all of this money? We're talking millions of dollars
Yeah.
now into these productions, and then it's just more feasible for them,
I,
supposedly, to just never release them.
I mean, so the thinking is that they don't have the confidence that this movie is gonna make enough money, you
Yeah.
know? Um, so I mean that would mean like you don't have the confidence that it's gonna break even, you
Yeah.
know? So I don't know. I mean, they sure, I mean it's a waste of money, but at this point in the process, they also have to think about how much millions of dollars they're going to spend on publicity and all that stuff. So they're trying to cut their losses where they can. So as like as a business move, like it makes sense if you think about the structure of this move. The problem is though, it's so shady, especially when they're doing it to several movies
Hmm.
all at once, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and also a big part of it was because HBO Max or whatever it was called at the time was losing money and they're tied to Warner Brothers. So they're trying to cut money wherever they can. But still like there's a lot of shady stuff going on with that, you know?
Hmm.
It's just like, man, this is weird. Um but and also there's also the side of it where it's like this could also just be a political decision, you know? It what everyone was talking about was the Zaslav guy who's in charge of what, HBO? Is that?
No, Warner Brothers.
Oh, Warner Brothers. He's very, very right leaning conservative. And
Hmm.
he's been very vocal about the content he wants on what is it called? Just Max now,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and he wants, men want action movies, so that's what we're going to make. Women want like reality TV, so that's what we're going to focus on, and that was his mindset. So, and then one of the first thing they do, cancel the Batgirl movie,
Hmm.
so I think it's kind of ignorant to say politics isn't playing into these decisions.
Yeah.
But then also you get something like this Coyote movie where it's just like, well, I mean, it's a kids movie, so I don't know where the politics falls into that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's because the coyote's suing a major corporation. That's why.
Yeah.
So
And probably wins.
hmm yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like that decision to cut your losses would come a whole lot earlier than when the thing is already
Yeah.
packaged.
Yeah, exactly.
You're ready
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
distribution. Now you're going to ask these questions
Yeah.
about, hey, is this thing sellable or not? That that doesn't make that doesn't make sense to the bookkeeper in me. you
Right,
know,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
unless they already knew they were going to do it in the first place,
Yeah.
which goes back to the shady thing.
Yes, it's like, why are they spending that money? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know.
um, yeah, it sucks. Other than that, I don't know of any. I haven't really heard of any other news coming out of movies. Really, it's been pretty quiet since the Oscars.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens. So this is episode 201.
Yay!
4.5 years.
Wow.
Whoa!
Yeah, it's a
That's a
long time.
child right there.
That's a
That's a
four and a half
child
year old
about
child.
about
Yeah.
to go to elementary, yeah, or in
Yeah,
elementary,
Yeah,
yeah.
what grade is that? Is that
that's
kinder? Is that pre-K?
that's pre-K.
Pre-K.
You go to
Wow.
kinder at 5. You
Wow.
should have
Oh
held out
wow.
another year. You'd had a kindergartner.
Dang. Wow. Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna hit, 5 year
We'll hit the
anniversary
5
in
pretty soon,
October.
yeah.
So we'll do something for that. I kind of have some plans in the works. We'll
Uh-oh.
see. Uh but yeah, I know I think we did a little celebration. We did like a two-part episode for the 100th episode.
Oh, we did, yeah.
Yeah, and we
Was that
did
when we talked about our movies? Our top
no,
10?
that's when we were doing like us trivia, the three of us.
Oh, man, that's right.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out who's the better family member. Um, Spoiler alert, Sam won.
Woo!
Uh, yeah. So I don't know. This time I was thinking like, okay, what about like long form storytelling? We just finished watching Lost, and it's wild just to think, the for better or worse, the stories they were telling took them 6 years to tell, you
Yeah.
know? And I'm just curious, like, what in y'all's life, I guess, what kind of exposure experience do you have to long form storytelling? I think the easiest one for anyone would be TV shows because those typically go for several years.
Yeah.
But do y'all have any favorite long form stories?
Oh, heck yeah. Lonesome Dove.
That's an interesting one. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. So not to correct my children on the air, but
Uh-oh.
um I don't see television as really fitting into the long form at on a when you have a weekly series going. You're just telling you're telling little short stories that are self-contained for
Hmm.
that, you know, 42 minutes plus commercials,
Hmm.
you know. Uh when when I was coming up, we had things like these little mini series that would come out on television. Okay. Lonesome Dove fit perfect into that. Multiple nights, it's like 2 hours, from 8 to 10, like
Hmm.
that, 3, 4 nights. And that was telling a long story. And so my favorite from there is Lonesome Dove. There's very few television shows that I have followed that actually followed an arc.
Mm.
Perhaps Lost did.
Hmm.
Okay. I didn't see all of Lost. I'm sorry.
What?
I'm sorry. I know it's called Lost Legacies. I'm sorry.
But
But
you
I
listened to
didn't
all our episodes, right? Right?
every
Right?
one of them.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Every
Good.
one.
You can stay on.
Okay. So, but like we were talking the other night about, like shows like that 911
Hmm.
show and,
Oh, yeah.
Chicago
Hmm.
Fire and, all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
They're Yeah, it's the same show, but is it really telling a story?
Hmm.
Follows the classic arc through all these seasons.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's a tough one. But the miniseries, definitely.
And I think we're getting a lot less miniseries on TV now because
Oh yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of the way just television is going in general with streaming. You know,
Hmm.
these
Yeah.
like we still have the shows on TV are still like the 20 plus episodes episodic, but on streaming we're starting to bridge that gap between a movie and then a mini series and then a long mini series.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
and that's
Yeah.
like a lot of new seasons being greenlit right now. They're like 10 episodes. You
Hmm.
know, to me that I'm like, okay, that's a long miniseries. You know,
Yeah.
and then also the fact that you can have like a 2 year gap between seasons. You know, that feels more like a miniseries.
Hmm.
So, and you know, I know a lot of people complain about that. I'm of mixed feelings because like before COVID, you know, when streaming was still fresh, I was all for it because that's the way a lot of like BBC shows do it. Like Luther, you know, you get 6 episodes, or same thing with like Sherlock, you get like a handful of episodes, and then you wait a year or two, you
Hmm.
know, but you know that when they come back, it's gonna be really damn good,
Hmm.
you know. And I was fine with that, but I think it also depends on like what's the story you're telling. I don't know, Star Trek, for example, like I don't know if that would really benefit Star Trek, you know? Like Star Trek is something more fun and you could kind of just come in and enjoy usually something and they started to do this with like Strange New Worlds. There's still a story, but they're getting back into the episodic adventures the way classic Star Trek used to be.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, okay, like I don't think that would work with the like okay like 6 episodes and then we're gonna wait 2 years.
Hmm.
Nowadays, if that happens, it's because there's a strike or something like that, you know. So like if you look at Star Trek, there's a few of those shows where it's like, man, they had like a year or two gap. It's like, yeah, because of the strike, you
Hmm.
know, because of COVID, you know. But the plan is one a year. So and then also with shows like Star Trek, where they're building an expanded universe, that really starts getting weird because they have multiple shows. So now they're like, it might not be, your show might not be on once a year because, okay, you have Strange New Worlds, and then you also have Discovery, and then you also had Picard, three live action Star Trek shows at the same time.
Hmm.
And like they kind of have to rotate because you don't want them both on air at the same time. You know, you want to spread it out. So
But why not? They used to do that back then. You'd watch an
yeah.
hour of Next Gen,
Well,
and then the
well,
next
yes,
hour was
but
Deep Space Nine.
again, those were 26 episode seasons. You know, that was the
Yeah,
majority of your year. If they
yeah,
did that
true.
now, you're looking at 9 months with no Star Trek. So it's like,
Okay,
so
yeah.
I get it. You know, it's just it kind of sucks. Like for I think for me, it's okay because I just like Star Trek. I'm gonna watch it, you know. But if you don't like if you don't like Strange New Worlds, you're like, well, you're either gonna watch it because it's the only Star Trek on, or you're just gonna skip it and not have any Star Trek for a couple months,
Yeah.
you know? So I don't know. But yeah, going back to what Dad was saying about the episodic TV and stuff, like we were saying that was some of the best parts of Lost because they are telling this long story over 6 years and
Hmm.
even these long character arcs over 6 years. But because one, the seasons were so long, they were able to do little one-off stories that seem like a one-off, you know,
Hmm.
but like was really good for a certain character, you know. And the big one everyone brings up for an example is the Hurley episode with the VW van. You know,
Hmm.
they're like, oh, that's the episode where they try to restart the van. They just go for like a joyride. It's like, yeah, but you got, you know, that story was being told at the same time as Hurley's backstory and his relationship with his dad. And
Hmm.
that kind of fuels and changes the way you see the character, you know? So you could skip that episode, but you're gonna be missing stuff.
Yeah.
But again, there's a lot of stuff like that mentioned 911 and Sam's new favorite show that he hasn't watched, Doctor Odyssey.
I was gonna mention it, but I was like, no, I can't. I can't do it. I'm gonna go on a 30-minute tirade about it. It's lost potential. Anyway, sorry.
And here's the best part of Doctor Odyssey. Sam loves this show so much. He's never watched it. He only
Mm-mm.
watches the trailers.
I'll never watch it.
And he's never going to watch it
I'm never gonna watch it.
because the version he has in his head is so much cooler than what we're actually getting.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
I agree. I agree with you 100%.
Dad, you don't know this, but I have so much lore, deep lore about my version of Doctor Odyssey.
Yeah.
Before the first episode even starts, I'm like, yeah, this is the story. This is what we're telling.
Yeah.
This is, you want to talk about long form television or long form storytelling.
Yeah.
Fan fiction.
Fan fiction. Oh, that's good.
That's
Yeah.
where it's at,
Yeah,
baby.
that's where the money's at, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Man.
Evidently, yeah.
Man, you got to contact these people.
I know. No, they'll never know because then they'll sue.
Oh,
Yeah. Or they'll steal his ideas. Oh, and
Yeah.
then you can sue.
Yeah, and then I can sue. Yeah, yeah.
And we'll
yeah.
make a movie about it.
Yeah.
Just like
Ditch it for the tax write-off.
The Odyssey's doctor. Yeah, and then we dump it, for tax purposes.
But we have to sue this time.
Yeah.
Just like we didn't sue Lego when we had the chance.
Oh, dirty dogs.
Have we told that story online, Sam?
Listeners, for those of you who don't know, which I'm assuming is everybody, when I was young, I want to say maybe 8, 9, I was an avid Lego collector and builder.
Mm-hmm.
Lego-er, I guess. Well, I wrote the Lego corporate. I wrote them a letter that essentially was like, "Hey, big fan, love your product. But I think it would be really cool if you guys made Batman, James Bond, and Toy Story Legos. Yours truly, Sam Jimenez. I think I had Mom help me dictate the letter. So yeah, we put it in an envelope. We found out where they were. We mailed it off, and it was all great. I got a message back from Lego Corporate that said,
Letter.
"Thank you." Oh yeah. I got a letter. I'm sorry. What is a letter? Okay, for those of you who don't know, it's this paper thing. No. Yeah, I got a letter back from Lego Corporate that was essentially like, really appreciate your letter. Thank you, for all the love, all of that. But unfortunately, because of copyright, and for whatever other reasons, we can't, sell these Legos. But you are more than free and welcome to use your own imagination to continue to, use our products and all this stuff. And it was like, well, okay, that makes sense. The power of imagination, like that's great.
And it was nice that they took the time to respond,
Yeah. Well, flash forward, to like, I don't know, 15, 16 years later, and what do I find? Actually, no, it probably wasn't even like that
It
long.
wasn't that long.
I was probably
Yeah.
like still in high school or something when it happened. They had Batman Legos.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what? What is this? What are you talking about? And I was trying to find the letter. I think we still have the response. We have that somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah,
But
I think your mom does.
Yeah, we never made a copy of the original letter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just like, what the? Are you kidding me? And then what else happens? They have Toy Story Legos.
Mm-hmm.
And then as for James Bond, well, we don't have James Bond sets yet.
Yeah.
As of right now. But what do they have? They have like the architecture Lego sets that are basically like the cars.
Mm-hmm.
So you can build James Bond's car. And I'm like, what is this?
There was even a Lego Batman movie.
There's a Lego Batman movie. He's had 3 video games so far.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
They poked you in the eye, son.
Yeah, they poked me in the eye.
Well, Dad, what the thing I like about Lonesome Dove is for the kids, the listeners, it was kind of like the original Yellowstone. You have Lonesome Dove. And it was a book. It was a huge book.
Yeah.
And essentially the miniseries was like, it felt like several movies, but then they went and did several other movies. They did like sequels and stuff. And it's always weird because different people make it, so you don't know if it's still like in the same continuity or not because the actors change.
Right.
And also like I'm pretty sure like the actors from Lonesome Dove did one of the sequels. I don't remember which, but yeah, but then they have the other sequel. So it's like the children and they grow up and they do their adventures. And then there was one that was a prequel. So I don't know if like the main characters were younger or it was about their parents or what. But and they're all books, and that's what's kind of cool too, you know? Like they're all based on actual books. The movies never really broke off and did their own thing. They're
Right.
all adapting the book. What was his name, the author? Mc,
McMurtry,
McMurtry, something like that.
Larry McMurtry.
I don't remember.
I can't remember.
The No
Lo-
Country for Old Men guy?
no,
Oh
No,
wait, no.
no.
Sorry.
Lonesome
No,
Dove.
Lonesome Dove.
that's right. That's right.
Uh,
Sorry. I got confused.
but yeah, yeah. So I like it. Like it was its own expanded universe. You know?
Ah, yes, Lonesomer Dove.
Uh-huh. Lonesome Dove, Larry McMurtry.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, yeah.
But you know,
Mhm.
just and then like I said, Yellowstone, it was kind of the same way. You know, Yellowstone came out, it was a huge success. So they're like, hey, let's do a prequel. Okay, and then that was a huge success. Okay, well, we're season two. And Taylor Sheridan's like, what do you mean? They all die. There's no season two. He's like, all right, well, let's do another prequel series with Harrison Ford. Okay. So
Yeah,
um
but the
Now the
diff
sequel again.
the difference here with between Lonesome Dove and Yellowstone, the guy's writing it as they're filming the thing. Okay, he doesn't
Yellowstone?
have. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He doesn't have a stack of books. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Totally.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the Lonesome Dove, that whole. Oh, I'm using my son's language here. That whole universe
Mhm.
existed way before they put a camera up.
Sure.
You know.
Sure, but I mean
So,
still there's I don't know when he died, the author, but um because I'm trying to remember when like the last book came out. I don't remember.
yeah.
But to me, like I don't care. To me, it doesn't matter as long as you're as if you have something to adapt, as long as you do it justice, that's fine. I don't care. I think it's impressive what Taylor Sheridan's doing without any source material. He's just coming up with it on his own. But also like the characters cross over, which you see in a lot of TV nowadays, like the Chicago series and 911, which is now crossing over with Doctor Odyssey. You know, it's the same thing, but like who are the actors from the Yellowstone prequel? Tim McGraw, right? Was that the
Yeah.
guy?
Sure.
Tim McGraw and
Yeah.
Faith Hill, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they're the main actors. They also show up in Yellowstone because they're the
Hmm.
ancestors. So they show up like in flashbacks and stuff.
Oh,
So
it's like
it's
as
just one.
ghosts.
Well, no, it's a
That's
flashback,
it.
Oh, okay.
but I mean that would be cool.
I'm gonna write my own fan fiction. Hang on.
Force ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you know, so still they're doing the same thing, you know, of tying it all in together, so you don't have to watch the prequels if you don't want to. But if you do, so much like there's a lot of payoff if you do, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something I'm really enjoying about um the this long form storytelling with TV and um with the miniseries, you know, and then like I was saying, that's the thing with Lonesome Dove. So many different people made versions, and they were also so far apart that like you had one cast for Lonesome Dove in the sequel, but then they didn't show up for any of the others. So I don't know if they just
Mm,
recast or it was new characters or what, you know.
yeah.
So, but nowadays with television and streaming, they're able to do that. So,
Yeah.
and also 15 years ago, 15 years ago, one season of TV was more story and content than like all of Star Wars, you know?
Yeah.
Now Star Wars of course has shows and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's changing, but I I just like the idea when done well of telling one story or an evolving story over time, you
Yeah.
know? Kind of growing. Oh, you know what's a good example? The Star Trek movies. Because they're all different, they're all standalone, but you see Kirk's character arc throughout the six movies,
Yeah.
you know? And I mean it's even more if you watch the original series because he was the young hotshot, hero, he was giving the
Hmm.
diplomatic speeches and he was punching the bad guys and he was kissing the girls. Well, then he's already a little older in the first movie and he's not really doing that stuff anymore,
Hmm.
And he's that guy who's like almost past his prime. Like he misses it. He misses that. He misses the Enterprise and the adventure, and the
Yeah.
bridge. So and he gets it back. So and then you just see him get older and older as the movies go on, and you see kind of how he adjusts to that. And even William Shatner was having a midlife crisis when he made Star Trek Five. You know, so and there was really no at the time there wasn't another example of that, where
Yeah.
you actually get to watch your heroes age.
Hmm.
Nowadays we're doing it all over. Let's bring someone back from a movie they did 20, 30 years ago.
Hmm.
But back then with the Star Trek movies, that's kind of it.
And I think that's the difference though, because they were like we got to see them do that with Star Trek as they were making it,
Hmm.
so it was sort of the plan. It's like, oh, okay, well, this movie did well. Let's go to the next one, let's
Yeah.
continue the story until, it was about six movies and like, okay, I think we're done. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But nowadays, the thing that we're coming back to is just bringing people back, continuing the story, 20, 30 years after the initial story already ended,
Right.
you know? So I would say that kind of like barely makes it into like the long form storytelling if we're getting like a legacy sequel,
I
you
wouldn't
know?
consider that at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Uh the first thing that came to my mind, which I think is sort of it's kind of an evolution of the long form, uh but we've also sort of seen how it like has teetered off from that, are the Marvel movies. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, I
Interesting.
think,
Hmm.
is from Iron Man all the way up until, I would say, I would give a pass to like Spider-Man Far From Home, which was right
Hmm.
after Endgame. I'd say those movies, those collections of movies, I think you could make an argument adding all of those franchises, spawning things together. I think that would be an interesting case to look at long form storytelling,
Hmm.
because you can pick a character. You could say, "Hey, I'm going to watch all of the movies that have Iron Man." So you watch all three Iron Man movies, you watch the Avengers movies he's a part of, and then that's it. Now,
Hmm.
oh, he maybe has a cameo in this, so like I'll watch that, or something like that. You do the same with Captain America, you can do the same with Thor, sort of Hulk, like yeah, like you can pick any one of those characters and see their storyline through
Hmm.
those movies. And it does, we're not necessarily talking about how well those stories are end capped or how well they're done,
Hmm.
but that's part of it. Like that's part of the thing. Like that's the thing that the comics have been doing for decades, since the 60s, since they came about, you know. That's the evolution of the sort of long form of the comic. And that's why I think the problem is now where it's like they sort of had an idea of where they wanted to go after the big arc, after Thanos and the Infinity Stones and all that. And then they had to rewrite things on the fly. COVID happened, so they had to do all
Hmm.
these things. And now they're sort of in this little, they're in this interesting period where I think they're trying to like swing back up and say, like, okay, no, now we have a cohesive vision. Time will tell on that.
Right.
you know
Yeah.
but I would say for those core movies, within that Infinity Saga, I'd say that would be an interesting case for like a modern movie version of long form.
Hmm. Hmm. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They each go through their arcs. I like that. I
Yeah.
remember back in college, talking to people saying that they never really had interest in doing TV because they don't want to play the same role for years. They want to keep something new and fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that makes sense. I could see that, but at the same time, I'm like, but what other opportunity would you have to evolve a character, you know?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to movies, a big budget movie, you film it for what, 4 months, and you get like a 2 hour movie. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Theater, if you're lucky, you get to like a decent rehearsal time, and then you do what, a 2 hour show,
Mm-hmm.
X amount
But
of times.
the same show,
Yeah,
you
it's the same
know?
show over and over. And even
Yeah.
then, even if it's just like a weekly run, there's so many different things that happen that, y either you're not in control of, or it's just I don't mean like random stuff. I mean just like as a creative, as an actor, you end up making choices that like you're like, why'd I do that? I have no idea. It could just kind of happen, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the kind of stuff that happens when you've done the exact same role 5 nights in a row, It's like, oh, that was an interesting choice. It kind of just, I did it. I didn't really think about it.
Yeah.
Um, so stuff like that's cool. But when a show's done right and you can actually play a character for years, and there's growth, or the character changes over time, to me that is exciting, because it's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's kind of the same with theater. Like, how do we keep this fresh? How do I do this exact same part 5 nights in a row without just sounding like I'm reading my memorized lines, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So how do you play the same role for 5 years without it just being repetitive? Like, comes down to the show running and the writers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I'm watching The Expanse right now, and me knowing how it ends, and how far it goes over the course of 6 seasons. Now I'm in season 2. Like, I'm loving it even more because I'm seeing all the characters already knowing where they end up, and I'm like, this is so good. I love
Yeah.
it. So,
It's also, it's also sort of interesting how like playing the same character for X amount of years, that's kind of the norm right now. You sign up for, one of the bigger positions of like a Marvel movie or any superhero movie now,
mhm,
you're signing a contract to at least be part of three movies, you
right.
know? Uh, and that's nothing to say, like within, like Marvel's case, like they have the whole cinematic universe. So there's TV shows, Netflix, all that's the Disney Plus shows. Um, but also I feel like that's just kind of like TV as well. TV now, look at shows like Severance where, kind of the same thing as a movie, you're contracted to film what 4 or 5 months, you get 9 episodes.
Hmm.
And then, it takes us 3 years before we get season two,
Yeah.
which is 10 more episodes. And then oh, we're gonna be back someday,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, like that's kind of the norm now.
And that's kind of interesting, because like I think it's not the same problems, but you would have different problems, because it's like, man,
Yeah.
I haven't played this role in 2 years, and now I got to go back, you
Hmm.
know? And because it also depends, like, okay, well, is this just another season, or like, is the time supposed to have passed, So
Hmm.
like, there's a lot of variables in that. Um, but I think something like that's episodic, like Star Trek, or any show like on basic cable, I could see where that would be scary, because
Hmm.
you don't really know what your character's journey going to be. Shows like that, unfortunately, even if they do have a lot of great character work, like, that's not the focus. They're here to sell a cop drama or a medical drama, and
Hmm.
that's what they got to deliver. So as a performer, it's like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know where this role's going. And that's
Hmm.
why you have a lot of people who leave those shows. Like, once their contract is up, they're only in there for like three or 4 years, and they take off. And it's these shows like Grey's Anatomy, it's an ever evolving cast of characters.
Yeah.
So the majority of the characters from season one are gone or dead, you know? I think
Spoilers.
there's only two actors who are still there.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're just, what season are they on?
I don't know, like 18 or something.
right? I think so. I don't think they've hit the
Like,
20s yet.
gosh,
Yeah.
really? That
Yeah.
long?
Yeah.
Yeah. It started at the same time as Lost. Did it?
No.
No, a little maybe after.
That's crazy.
Because I think Lost and Desperate Housewives premiered like almost like the same week or something.
Yeah.
21 seasons.
21 seasons.
Whoa.
Dang.
We're off. Wow.
Wow. Yeah,
Man.
I missed a couple there. I don't watch it, so
Wow.
yeah.
But is that because you have your own fan fiction of Grey's Anatomy?
Yeah, it's the one where they didn't blow up Kyle Chandler.
They blew up Kyle Chandler?
Yeah, he's the bomb disposal guy, and he blows up.
What?
Spoiler alert for season 3 or something.
What? That's your job.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Well, I guess he wasn't that good at it.
Wow.
So, yeah. Like, I forgot the story.
The upside is you're only wrong once.
Yeah, I think a patient. I forgot what happened, but like he got hit by like his own. What was it?
Oh, wait a minute. Is this the one where the guy gets like a grenade shot in him and
Something like that. Yeah,
there's a grenade inside the person they're going to operate on,
yeah.
and then somebody comes running if they figured it out, like, hey, something's missing, what's going on, what was actually shot out of the cannon or bazooka, whatever it
Oh,
was.
I don't remember because I've seen that. I don't know if that was Grey's Anatomy or not, but it's
Uh,
something like that. Like they were fooling around and they didn't realize there was like live ammunition in this old weapon, and he gets like this grenade or something in him. I don't remember.
yeah, and so someone runs into the operating room and it's, wait, nobody move. And they figured out that
Uh,
it's a live round inside this guy they've
yeah,
already cut open, you know? It's
yeah.
like, oh, come on,
That's like
man.
crap.
I'm taking notes. I gotta write this into my Doctor Odyssey
Yeah.
fan fiction.
Well, I mean, look, I don't think that's too far. That's not too far fetched. With the amount of people in this
Isn't
country
it?
who mess around firearms and stuff like that, it's like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Um,
probably. Unfortunately.
Sadly.
yeah,
Yeah.
and but I think so. So Kyler Chandler comes in as the bomb disposal guy, and like, there's Dr. Gray, uh,
Meredith.
Meredith Gray. The hospital's not named after her yet.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so she's there and she's holding it and whatever because you got to keep it still. And then so he's there, Kyle Chandler's there walking her through it. And it's a two-part episode. And like they got chemistry. I'm like, man, I really like this character. This can go somewhere. And at the very end, like he takes it, he's like, okay, you stay here because he wants to get it away from the people. As he's walking down the hall, man, and
Wow.
I like Kyle Chandler, you know? He's such a good actor.
Man.
He
And he's such a nice person.
he's
in
such a
real
nice
life.
guy. He has the classic kind of Hollywood vibe to me, you know?
Yeah.
Which I
Yeah.
think I really like that he played the actor in the King Kong movie. He was the lead
Yeah.
man. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He stopped by the bookstore once too. He was really
Did he?
nice. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I think you might
The
have told
old
me
one.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And of
Yeah.
course, we remember him from back in the good old days when he was on Early Edition.
Yes. That's what
Yeah.
that was called. Yeah.
That's right. Kyle
Oh,
Chandler, I think he lives in
yeah.
Austin.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, him and his wife, they left Hollywood when they were doing Friday Night Lights, and they're like, you know what? We're just gonna get in our RV and start living on the road. And then they ended up in Austin.
And isn't he the Rocketeer?
No,
No.
that was Billy Campbell, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
I
Yes.
think so.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
So no, but he's
Never
playing.
mind.
I don't think they know. They haven't confirmed it, but he's in the Green Lantern show that they're making.
Matthew.
Did
They
confirm-
have confirmed
Is
it.
he Hal Jordan?
He's Hal Jordan.
Hal Jordan. That's cool. Kyle Chandler was born to wear a bomber jacket.
Yes.
You know, he just has
Yeah.
that look.
He's got that look. He's got that vibe.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
look like a bomber pilot.
Yeah. Like not the Rocketeer, but like I could see it.
It's that same. It's that same
yeah.
kind of American kind of look. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He plays the ace pilot who needs the Rocketeers' help, you
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
getting his plane back up in
And
the
he's the
air. And
one when the Rocketeer gets shot and he has a fever and he's dying. They're like, oh no, he's the one who straps it on and pretends to be the Rocketeer.
whoa,
Yeah. Oh, and this is
yeah.
also this would be the story where they're like, hey, we're pretty sure this guy's the Rocketeer. We should just take him out. And he's like, no, I'm not. Well, then he gets shot and he's sick and he's in the hospital. So Kyle Chandler would put it on. So how could this guy be the Rocketeer when he's up there?
He's up there right now fighting the Nazis and their Zeppelin. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how
Yeah.
I would do it. That would be my Rocketeer movie.
Damn, write this down. Gotta write it down.
I was just clips were showing up on my Instagram the other day. Rocketeer, you know. How does it feel working with a Nazi, Eddie? What's he talking about? Oh, Eddie, you never complain about making any money. Like, hey, I may. Oh, what's the line? He's like something like, "I may live below the table, but I'm still an American." I was like, oh, love it, love it. And then when they have the giant shootout, and it's at the what's it called? The Griffin
Yeah, the
Observatory.
Griffith. Yeah.
Oh man, it's so cool. And then when he I don't remember the Rocketeer's real name, but the Rocketeer has to climb up there to chase the blimp, and he gets up and he puts the helmet on, and then the gangster even looks at him and is like, "Go get him, kid!" As the American flag is waving in the background, and he takes off.
Beautiful.
I was watching him like, man, this guy should direct Captain America, and he did. He did
He
the
did.
first one.
It's Joe Johnson.
Yeah, I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah.
Ah, I love it.
Well, real quick sidebar. DC Comics ripped off that part of that exchange in some Marvel DC crossover where I
Yeah,
think like Batman and Captain America have to team up because the Joker and the Red Skull teamed up.
yeah.
And the Joker finds out that the Red Skull is a Nazi
Uh-huh.
and basically switches sides. He's like, wait a minute, you're a real Nazi? He's like, well, yes, of course. It's like, well, hang on. I thought it was just a gimmick. I thought it was just a getup. I'm an American criminal. I'm not gonna work with a Nazi. That's that's saying something when someone like the Joker won't work with a Nazi.
Yeah. Oh man. Wow.
Brilliant.
Love it. Um yeah, what's oh, well, I guess let's go back to the question because Dad said Lonesome Dove. Sam, do you have a favorite long form storytelling? Storytelling?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess I guess I kind of answered that with like the Marvel movies.
That's true.
Um, yeah,
It's kind of
they're
a broad question, you know, like what's your favorite movie or TV show of all time?
yeah, like that's pretty, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess I would have to say that, outside of anything like comic books,
Yeah.
you know, because I feel like, well, because comic books I think are sort of an interesting thing because like you'll definitely have um you have like the big ones DC and Marvel that are always like they're going for decades and they've rebooted and they've done
Yeah.
all of these things like so it feels kind of weird to consider what is canon and what isn't
Right.
as they're rewriting it but I think like indie comics is kind of where it's at where it's like you can have a story going for
Hmm.
almost 10 years and then it comes to an end and it's like well yeah like we got like one issue of these every month
Yeah.
it's like that's something to kind of mull over like that I would say I guess like something like Saga
Mm-hmm.
is kind of one that I think I would consider a favorite. Dad, Saga is a sweeping sci-fi odyssey that doesn't skimp out on the violence or sort of like the brutal nature of war.
Hmm.
But it follows these two soldiers who defected from both of their respected armies. They're on opposite sides because they fell in love and they're having a baby. And so they have to try and find a way to raise this child while also being on the run And it's like it's complicated enough raising a child. How much more complicated is it living in a world where you're on the run, where everybody's fighting with everybody else, and there's you know wild casted characters, lots of people die. Um, but yeah, and it's been going since, I don't know, the mid 2000s.
Well, it's over now, though,
Really?
right?
No,
It's still going?
it's still going. They're coming to an end.
Oh, wow. I thought it was
Yeah.
already over.
No, because like
Wow.
that was the thing that like they took like a small the writer and artist took a small hiatus uh because they were trying to plan out their like ending. Well, then I think they went on hiatus in 2019, and then of course COVID happened. So then life happens, and they just have to they were trying to figure things out personally and professionally, and then they finally just a couple of years ago finally came back and said, okay, we've got it, and now we're starting the long run to the end, to the finish line.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, you just said.
That that baby's getting ready to go off to college by now.
Right.
I was going to say, you said Space Odyssey, and I'm like, my mind started racing.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor Space Odyssey.
Doc. Matt, don't give away my ideas. Stop
Damn.
it. That's
Damn.
what season 6 is.
Um,
Ground control to Doctor Space Odyssey.
damn, that's crazy. I didn't know this comic was still going.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I was going to say, I don't know what my favorite would be, and then I just kind of had the revelations, like, oh, crap, it's probably Critical Role.
Yeah. I was
A
gonna say
live
D&D.
streaming show, streaming their D&D games. It's like one episode a week, usually 3 to 4 hours, and they've been doing it for a decade at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about thousands and thousands of hours.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, most shows have like yearly seasons. Theirs is like they do campaigns. So like typically one campaign goes about 3 years. But yeah, I mean, and now that they wrapped up the third campaign, it also tied in and wrapped up with or crossed over and wrapped up the first two as well, even though they had their own like endings. Now, like that first 10 years of Critical Role, like wrapped up. And I'm like, man, that's long form storytelling,
Yeah.
you know? And I don't know which one would be my favorite, but yeah, I think that's with that something like that, especially because it's a tabletop game and it's literally just your imagination, you're able to do all the stuff that I really like about telling these long stories in TV, but get rid of all the fluff, like all the stuff I don't want, and I think there's just something really cool about that, especially because there's no writers, it's your fellow players that are coming up with the story with you.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
and so you're it's not just long long form storytelling, it's like long form improv in a way, you're literally the characters and the stories are going to get better as the performers get better because they're getting more experience, acting and improving, and they're playing these characters 4 hours a week for 3 years. These characters are getting more in depth and more real,
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
wow. I don't know
Hmm.
why I didn't think of that at the beginning of the episode. Like that would
I,
probably be my favorite.
yeah, I was gonna say at some point, yeah, like Dungeons
Yeah.
and Dragons, like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Interesting.
Wow.
Are
Man.
we enticing you yet, Dad? You get to tell
Um,
a story for a very long
Yes.
time with
I
your
don't
sons.
know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
3 to 4 hours every week for
Let's
10 years.
listeners,
Oh,
we've been trying to get Dad to play
gosh.
D&D with us for years.
Hasn't happened yet.
Hmm.
It's interesting.
I think you'd have fun with it. Hmm.
I might. Is that the one where I would be the buffalo guy?
If you want, we talked about this years ago, and our Dad is a fan of buffaloes, so I'm like, I'll make you a buffalo character, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
So kind of, before we wrap up, this is something that like uh I know I'm probably the only one who's going to have more experience with this, but like you could also say, well, yes and no. Some video games that there is a long story there, depends on the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, if you especially if you talk about something like Kingdom Hearts, which has been around forever, and I
Hmm.
don't even know if they know what the story is because it's so convoluted,
Hmm.
um but I was thinking of stuff like you have tabletop role-playing games, and we have like right now, Sam and we've talked about this a little bit in the past, listeners, but we've just started playing our Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough, which is
Hmm.
D&D as a video game. uh, and we are working on episodes for our YouTube, so look for those coming out soon. But that's like you're looking at least a 60
Mhm.
hours, and that's not even all the content. So that's not years of play unless you're playing like 1 hour a week,
Yeah.
but still that's 60 hours, compared to most movies where you spend like 2 hours with a character, you know?
Hmm.
So I was just kind of thinking, Sam, like, with you don't play a lot of video games, so like in the video game space, like what kind of strikes you as interesting, as a long form story, but also being able to control it as well?
Ooh. Like in terms of like what, like which game or
Yeah, I mean, is there anything just growing up that has like stood out to you, or have, because I know a lot of video games have inspired me in the way I kind of write, or whether it's a screenplay or comic book or D&D session, a lot of it's kind of based off
like
video
video
games.
games? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, child of the 90s, so I
Mhm.
gotta admit, like Final Fantasy 7. That
Yeah.
was that was huge, for a lot of people, but I think in terms of like storytelling wise, like structure wise, like you can very clearly see like because back then it was on discs and the game was so big it came on 3 discs.
Uh-huh.
That's like a movie coming in on 2 VHS tapes,
That's
like
like
Lord of
that's
the Rings, you're like,
yeah,
whoa.
yeah.
And that was just the theatrical cut of Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
back then, 2 VHS tapes.
Yeah.
No commercial, no trailers before. Um, so yeah, Final Fantasy VII was on 3 separate discs, and like you can clearly see like the act breaks and you can see like the structure of the story, and kind of like an early version of Baldur's Gate 3, where it's like you
Yeah.
have your cast of characters, where we're coming together, we've got to go on the journey, we've got to, do all this stuff. Uh I would say same thing with a little more modern, but like Mass Effect. Mass
Yeah.
Effect is kind of the same thing, and uh obviously as we progress in our games and in our technology, like the hours of gameplay also increase. So, like
Mhm.
there's a lot, and I think there's an incentive too for a lot of game studios to make open world games and sandbox games where you can go off and do your own thing. Like you can follow the main path, you can follow the main storyline, but there are a lot of other things that you can go do. That's part of the fun of games like Skyrim, but even like Red Dead Redemption 2, you're in the old west. You
Mhm.
can ride a horse and you can just ride that horse. If
Mhm.
you've got, you clock out of work, you get home, you rest, you eat something real quick, and then it's 8:30. I'm gonna be playing until midnight. From 8:30 to midnight, you can just ride your horse through the entire game, you
Mhm.
know, just experiencing all of that. It's like that. I don't know, like that's a cool thing to me where, I like to have choice. Uh and I think in terms of using those sort of like video game structures in storytelling, I think I think that's an interesting thing to think about where it's like I think you want your characters to have an abundance of choice. Kind of using like like game speak, it's sort of like you don't want your character to feel railroaded, that this is the only path they can take, unless that's the story you're telling. But it should be for them within the context of their world. They can do anything.
Yeah.
Everything's gonna have a consequence, but you know, you can do anything.
You want them
And
to
they,
feel like they can do anything.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. That's to me, that's why like I always go back to like D&D or not even D&D, just any kind of tabletop role-playing game is the best game you can play as long
Yeah.
as you're having fun with the story because even Red Dead Redemption or Red Dead Online and then like Grand
Hmm.
Theft Auto, you can those games are made to give you the illusion that you can do anything you want,
Yeah.
you know? And I always say like Grand Theft Auto, you could steal a plane, crash it into a helicopter, skydive onto like the Santa Monica Pier, and like, I don't know, shoot someone in the face. And you're like, oh yeah, I could do anything. And it's like, well, someone had to go code all that.
Yeah.
Someone had to make the game in a way that you could make those decisions, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas D&D, you're just coming up with on the spot, you know, and then you find rules to see if you're successful or not. So,
Yeah.
but Dad, to end it off, seeing
Yes.
that you don't play any video games, if you were to play a video game, or even better, if you were to make a video game, what would you want it to be about? What do you think would grab your attention for an hour or two every night? You're like, I can't wait to play this game.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I it'd have to be something that would uh challenge me.
You mean like rules mechanics wise or like
or
choice
like
wise,
or like
story
a
wise?
puzzle.
Yes, both.
Oh,
Ooh,
okay.
all of it. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
I don't want to say I have a short attention span, but to keep my attention,
Hmm.
something's got to happen. So if I'm gonna play a game, I either got to be figuring it out, you know, or reading clues,
Hmm.
things like that. Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't play those kind of games.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard for me to say what it is
Yeah.
I would want,
Right,
you
right.
know.
Hmm.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know. I'm I'm carving a hiking stick. Can I do
Hey, that's cool. You know what I think Dad would
A
like?
camping simulator.
Yeah, well, I figured Dad would like some kind of simulators, something like that, or like, I don't
Yeah.
know, Stardew Valley, where you get to build your little community.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
There's a game, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's cheap or whatever, but it's basically an off-road video game where your vehicles can drive over almost anything. And I'm watching gameplay and like it's kind of soothing, but also like kind of gives you anxiety because like you're driving down this steep cliff. I'm like, oh man, it's just so cool. And you're in this beautiful countryside, just I'm like, man, like that's rad, you know?
That is
But
really
then
cool.
then there's a lot of people who they love the hunting games, you know?
Oh
And
yeah.
and it's not just like or even
Hmm.
fishing, where you're not just running around shooting animals. It's like no, like you're taking your time, you're hiding, you're waiting for the deer to run past, like really
Hmm.
slow, patience driven gaming. I'm like, wow, this is
You've
interesting.
got to unlock the tackle box and you've got to sort through all of your lures and then you got to stick it on the hook and then you got
Uh,
to cast it and then you got to wait.
Yeah.
Wait.
Or we could go the exact opposite because dad seems like he wants a challenge or he wants a goal and he needs specific challenges to overcome.
Hmm.
So all I'm saying, you've never headshot someone with a sniper rifle. So Call of Duty may be your thing, you know?
I don't know.
That's
Maybe
true.
so.
But I think classic Call of Duty, like dad's
Hmm.
Dad, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you're a modern warfare kind of guy. You wanna
Oh.
you wanna fight, in the big red one, that kind of
Oh,
thing.
okay,
With
okay.
those like bolt action rifles,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
back when we called our enemies krauts.
well, I'm old school, but I'm not that old. Okay, all
Well, I'm
right.
not saying you're that old. I'm just saying like that's
So
that's the sort of vibe I get from Dad. He
there
doesn't
you
want to
go.
do the Black Ops like I was like
The
I'm
big
part of
heavy
this.
machine
The
guns and
CIA
Yeah,
sent me, to
no.
the
no,
jungle, but now
no,
they're
Yeah.
betraying me. Like that's
nah. I
not
don't want.
Dad's vibe.
World
Dad's
War II,
Dad's World War
grenades,
II. Yeah,
sticky
Yeah,
bombs.
sticky
yeah.
bombs. You like the parachute, out of the planes as you're being fired
Hmm.
on. You
What's
know,
the gun they have? You usually see like the sergeants have it. It's kind of like the I don't know what that's called.
What the little
what is
machine
that?
gun?
Yeah, the little machine gun. Because like in World War II, like the typical soldiers had like the rifles,
Yeah,
you
they
Yeah.
had
know?
M1s,
Yeah,
M1
yes.
rifles.
And then you
Yes.
have like the one guy in each group who had like the machine gun, and it was a small little guy, little thing.
Okay, that was typically the sergeants.
There you
Sergeants
go.
had the little machine gun and a pistol.
There you go.
Mm.
Man, give me
Okay.
one of those and a shotgun and just send me in.
Oh man. I will
In
admit.
in Call of Duty, not real life.
I was gonna
Oh.
say, yeah.
I know my limits. I'm man enough to know my limits.
I don't like loud noises, so me as well, also in
Oh
video
gosh.
games.
I
When the
will
war
admit
comes,
this.
we're gonna be, great. We're gonna do
Oh my
fantastic.
I get
gosh.
anxious when people are yelling, not even at me, just in general.
Oh my
I
Can
don't
we
like
calm
goodness.
down?
I don't like confrontation. Let's just talk.
Damn it, Jimenez, I'm not mad at you. I know, Sarge, but you sound like you are.
Oh my
Sarge, I just want
gosh.
to know that I'm doing a good job. Well, you're not. Okay. Well, that's not helping. You telling me I'm not doing a good job isn't going to
Gosh.
make me do a better job.
Okay, I don't want to play that game. I don't want to play that game.
Oh man.
I will say this. When I had a PC years and years ago, I don't know how I got it, but it was a free flight simulator game.
Yes, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
I
Okay,
forgot it.
okay. And it was World War II planes.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And
We had a joystick, right? It had a joystick with it?
yeah,
Yeah.
I had a
Oh,
joystick and it had a throttle,
so cool.
and I enjoyed that
Okay,
because it
pilot
was kind of
games.
hard because you had to know the plane.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Okay, so you had to know about flaps, you had to know how to do the joystick,
Mhm.
how to the mechanics of a plane
Right.
that's flown with a stick as opposed to a steering wheel.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and you had to understand about the throttle, the choke, all that kind of stuff just to get the thing rolling down the thing.
Mhm.
Never
Mhm.
mind getting it up in the air. So you had to
Yeah.
Oh,
learn about the
man.
plane. I did enjoy that.
That was really cool. That was a cool game.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right, so now we know we're narrowing it down. That's
There you
into
go.
playing games. All
There
right.
you
Playing
go.
games. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means I think, Dad, I think you'd kill it at Tractor Simulator.
I see I've watched footage online of people playing like I don't know what's called if it's just like a airplane simulator or what, but they're like they manage airports. It's like almost an airport simulator.
Oh
And
yeah.
they actually have players
What?
coming in and like taking off and landing. But these guys are like serious. Like they have the lingo down, they have the codes, they know when to take turns and so they don't crash into each other. And
What,
I'm
they're
like,
like air traffic controllers?
yeah, I'm like,
Yep.
wow, these guys just love this. I'm
That's a
like,
game?
Yep.
yeah. I was like, that's crazy.
The real guys have heart attacks and high blood pressure.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh my, no. No, that's too much. No,
Too much
that's
pressure.
too much stress.
If it was just me playing alone, okay, but like playing with other people, like, oh man, their digital lives are on the line. No.
Somebody's gonna miss their connection in Denver
Yeah,
if we don't
yeah.
get this bird up in the air.
Oh man. Well, listeners, thank you for joining us for this long form episode.
Oh, I
Let
see
us
what
know
you
what
did
your
there.
favorite, long form story is. Anything, we talk movies, video games, comic books. Maybe there's some music, you could talk about, musicians who tell stories throughout their career on albums and stuff, like who knows? But we'll have to save that for another episode. So, thank you for joining us. Doesn't matter if this is your first episode or your 201st episode. Thank you for joining us, going on this ride. Uh, I guess we should have brought this up at the beginning. If you're here for Lost, sorry. We'll be back to Lost next week. We're going to finish up
Yes.
the show with kind of like our epilogue and just our overall thoughts on the series as a whole. Yeah. And then we'll probably start next week. We'll start announcing like what's the schedule going to look like, what we're doing next, and all that jazz. But until then, hit us up, hashtag Lost Legacies on all social media. I'm on Instagram and Threads at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch and BluSky at Matthew Jimenez.
And you can find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Real. That's REEL Texas Weirdo.
And you can't find me because I'm retired now.
Too bad. Yeah, so everyone, stay safe. Take care. All you air traffic controllers, take care of yourself, man. Take care of yourselves.
Yeah.
Don't play the air simulator games. They're too real. But until, I feel weird because Lost is over now. But until next time, get lost. Now it just sounds like a threat.